Welcome to the Basketball Wheels podcast, where we find out a little bit more about what goes on in the Basketball Wheels community. Croeso I pod pel basket. I'm John Bunyan, and today we're joined by James Morgans, who is leading on the Basketball Wheels National League. Hi, and welcome to Basketball Wheels podcast. We're here today with James Morgans. I'm going to say, James, that you are the brains behind the Basketball Wheels National League. Welcome, James, to the podcast. The second time on a podcast. I must like to mention that as well. How are you doing today? Okay.
I'm good. Glad to be back on your podcast, John. Yeah, really good. I'm not sure about the brains behind the BWNL. I think maybe the idea behind it, and I pulled a few brains in. So yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Let's get into that then. James, talk to us a little bit about the idea, where it came from, and maybe talk to us about some of the brains that you did pull in and help you.
yeah, the idea. I mean, I've been running local basketball club now for my local basketball club Mull for over 20 years, and after 20 years, you played a lot of the same teams over and over again. And the teams change, the players change over the years. Apart from ours seem to have stayed. Um, but yeah, you get to play a lot of the same teams. So we dipped into about 10 years ago. We dipped into England basketball, played in Division 4 for a couple of years. A lot of travel around England, and it's just I thought back then, why hasn't Wales got a national league team where we can play across excuse me, across the country. I think I mentioned it a while back, and nothing came of it. And then through lockdown, more time to think, more time to write stuff down, and yeah, and I thought let's do it. Let's connect Wales, and let's see if we can get a national league running for the Welsh basketball community. Um, I spoke to a few people, some key people. I spoke to Lee Coulson down in Aberystwyth. They've got nowhere, they've never had anywhere to play. Too far for the South Wales League, too far for the North Wales League. And then Lee introduced me to Kate Gordos over from Manchester, who's commercials director for Basketball Wales. And Kate just loved the idea. She was straight in with it. Yeah, this sounds great. So I put a few bits together, and we put it to the Basketball Wales board, and it was a bit of a unanimous decision on the board. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get it running, and it sort of spiraled from there really. And then all of a sudden, this was last summer, and all of a sudden, the league was starting in September. Well, October actually, but once everybody was registered in September. So people I brought in there was Kate's come in, and Kate is great with all the commercial stuff, the sponsorships, the all that side of it. She's really proactive. And then following that, then Lee Coulson's been involved, but he's also been heavily involved with the junior NBA. So he brought somebody else in from Aberystwyth. I brought Ryan Chambers in from the South Wales League, who's got a good head on his shoulders from WRU. I brought the chairman of the North Wales League, Joe Robinson. So we've got a voice from both areas. And then Jamie Thomas as well from the Celts, who his role is social media, which we'll probably touch on later, and has been a massive bonus for us having Jamie involved. And then Dan Cox as well, to coordinate the officials. He's done a great job of making sure all the games have got appointments this season so far. So yeah, really once I got the idea out there and got these guys involved, it was like, yeah, everybody's running with it, and it's taken off. We'll say that it's taken off. So
I know from experience that there's a lot of hard work that's gone into this. So it's great that you've seen the fruits of your labour come to fruition now, and actually see it up and running. So we were just talking about where we are within the league, and it's like we'll come on to this in a minute, but nice to be able to talk about some of the games, some of the matchups, and how it's going. But just talk to us, James, and tell listeners a little bit more about the teams involved, and how it was received sort of within the Basketball Wales community.
yeah, I think being in the north, I was able to speak to the north teams perhaps face to face and have a chat with them. They were straight. A few of the teams in the north were straight on it because they wanted to get out and play more teams. You know, South Wales have got more teams to play against anyway. So um, and the you know, a handful of the South Wales teams were, yeah, straight in. RCT Gladiators were the first to respond. Um, Ange Williams was straight on it. Yes, put us down for this. Um, and then a couple of teams that I spoke to over messaging across South Wales were interested, but it was perhaps a little bit alien to them to be travelling across the country. I think that's what it was. So that I know there's a few teams down in South Wales that are watching how it goes this season and seeing how much travel there is and things like that, and might have an extra interest in it. Um, but yeah, you know, the
Yeah.
teams involved at the minute. We've got 8 teams in the league. Up in the north, we've got Mole Magic, we've got Honest Mon Celts, we've got Cheshire Raptors, um, and then moving down the country, we've got Aberystwyth Warriors, covering that vast gap in the middle of Wales. And then we've got RCT Gladiators, we've got Tribal basketball from Cardiff, we've got Cougars, Kentford Cougars, and we've got Cardiff Met Archers.
Okay.
So yeah, it's you know, it's nice as well because Cardiff, you know, Cardiff Met Archers and RCT Gladiators have played in and still plays Archers do, don't they, in the EB National League as well. So
Yeah.
you know, competition's high.
Good. Yeah, I mean, sort of, we're getting to the stage now. We're nearly into the playoffs now. So we've had some games, we've had some matchups. So tell us a little bit about the standard and how that's gone so far, and sort of what's any particular games that have sort of stood out and caught your eye and have been of interest.
Well, it's quite interesting actually because I thought there'd be maybe a few blowout games, you know, during or a lot of blowout games during this league, but you know, because the standard, having coached in the Welsh program, you can see the standard down south with the juniors is higher than in north with the juniors, and obviously there's more players down in the south. So yeah, I thought there'd be a lot more blowout games, but I wrote down a few games actually just to have a bit of a comparison. Cougars versus Raptors, which is the recent game that's just played. So the Raptors travelled down
Yeah,
to Bridgend, and that ended with a 68-83 win for Raptors. So it was a 15 point game in that. And then another one, Tribal versus West Coast Warriors, Aberystwyth. That was an 82-67. So again, a 15-point game. So you know, West Coast Warriors that have not played in an official league somewhere have gone and taken on a city team, and
yeah,
you know, kept it to a 15-point game, which has kept it quite interesting.
yeah,
I think it's great. And a few of the other games there, Archers versus Magic was 11 points, and Celts versus Cougars was 14-point games. So yeah,
yeah,
it's been interesting. It's been some close games, and another thing that's been good, which you know, working with Kate and working with Jamie and making sure our socials are right, we've live streamed a lot of games, which has helped with some of the COVID restrictions for spectators, and also with teams travelling across the country. It's great that the North Wales families and fan base, if you say they've got a fan base, but mainly families probably,
yeah,
can watch and feel a part of the game that's going on down in Cardiff. So that's been really good. That has, I
yeah,
think we've had some good engagement with those live streams and those socials. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's been a really good sort of, and especially, in light of the traveling, people not being able to maybe travel all that distance, are still able to watch the games. So that makes it interesting. And for me, what makes it really interesting is what you just said about the results and, the competitiveness of the league. And I think most importantly, I think, as you mentioned as well, you've got some teams who are perhaps watching with interest who haven't been involved this year, and can see the results and the fact that, it is competitive. And hopefully, I'm sure you want this to happen. You want the league to grow and become bigger. So that's the first thing. But what I was interested in, James, how this is fitting into the sort of domestic South Wales and North Wales league structures, and
Yeah.
what kind of impact is it having on the local leagues?
Yeah,
Hey,
I
Simon.
mean, one of my main thoughts on on this league running was, and coming from a background of working with the North Wales, I was chairman for several years for the North Wales League. I didn't want this national league to have any sort of immediate impact on the local leagues. And by that I mean teams going, oh yeah, we'll play in the national league and we're not going to play in the local league now. So one of the rules that we set in place for the BWNL was, if you enter a team into the BWNL, you have to have the same level of team. Sorry, so if it was a men's team, because we've only got men's in the BWL at the minute, then you have to have a men's team in the local league that you're from. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same players, so as long as you are representing your club with a men's team in the local league to match the BWNL's team that's in there. So, and I think that was an important point for me, because we don't want, especially in the north, we can't afford to deplete any teams, deplete the league at all. So, so that was important. And other than that, I think it's just, it's coinciding so far. It's coinciding just alongside the local leagues. We put, as a club, taking my BWNL hat off and put my club hat on, we put an A team and a B team into the local league this year. So I've got the option of pulling then players from either team to go and play in the BWNL. So we're getting more players, more contact time on the court, and just more exposure to basketball, I suppose, as much as possible. But with regards to the South, I think that they're used to playing perhaps more games anyway. I'm not so sure I'm not so sure they're used to the travel. Some of the teams at the minute. I've noticed in some of the games that the teams are traveling with between 6 and 8 players, which does happen anyway with a travel. Amateur sports players have families and work commitments, and I think that will pick up as people start to realise it's not that much of a distance to travel, really. So yeah, I think it's been coinciding quite well. I know both leagues have supported the BWNL and are sharing our promotion as much as they can on socials. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you're pleased with the way in which things have panned out so far?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. It's gone a lot better than I thought it was. I thought, I knew it would run, and I knew we'd get it going. I thought we'd have a few more teething problems than possible, but like I said, the group that I pulled together for the committee are awesome. They're doing an outstanding job. The teams have been really good with the things that, as a league, what we've asked of them. We've set up a media group. We're getting lots of photos. We've had, John Smith, the FAW photographer.
Yeah.
So we've had him in, and he's done a webinar for our teams for sports photography, which was absolutely brilliant. And he attended one of the games, and he's hoping to attend a few other games as well as the season goes on, with some outstanding professional photography. So yeah, it's gone brilliantly. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I think it's worth sort of shouting out John at the John Smith. He's a great photographer. He did some stuff for us for the junior MBA. So it's great that he's sort of passing on his knowledge and experience for other people to sort of,
Yeah.
because I think people love seeing photographs on social media, and so yeah, hopefully that'll sort of grow as well. That's great, James. It sounds really positive to date. What I'd like to sort of move on to now is, we're at the playoff stage at the moment, so maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the matchups there, and how that's going to work, and the dates, etc.,
Yeah.
and what we've got to look forward to.
Well, the playoffs are the Pool A and Pool B, obviously crossing over the games, and they're running through February. So what we decided to do, because the league structure this season so far has been sort of one day a month. All the teams play on, whether it's a Saturday or a Sunday, that weekend. So what we decided to do with the playoffs was there's 4 games, so we've put them every weekend in February. So So through February, we've got the semi-final for the Cup, which is Gladiators versus Magic. That's the 6th of Feb. And then we've got Archers versus Raptors, and that is the 20th of Feb, 19th or the 20th. And then we've got the Plate semi-final, which is Celts versus Warriors and Hunters versus Cougars. So that will be some interesting matchups, I think, and I think we'll see some really good games there. We're hoping to make sure that every game's live streamed. So we've got somebody that's been supporting us, John Davenport. He's been supporting. He's up and coming photographer and videographer. So I think he did video work with the Junior NBA, didn't he?
He did indeed.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he played basketball under 18, under 16 level for Mold. So he's got a basketball eye for photography and videography, which is good. And he's been doing our live streams, which have been really good. And I think he's going up to Holyhead to do Celts live stream for their semi-final. And then and he is traveling with us to the Gladiators game. So we're hoping that if they haven't got anything, he'll try and live stream from there as well. So we can get, a live stream on every game, which is because we've had some really good engagements, with the live streams over the games. Sort of talking, 1,500 people engaged with some of the live streams. Last month, I think there was over 3,000 engagements with our socials on Facebook, and then Kate's also, running Instagram and Twitter, and there's some really good engagements and follows on that social media, which is great.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think the numbers that you're talking about there are significant, aren't they? And for the development of this moving forward, and other things within Basketball Wales, the social media element plays a massive part. So it's great to see that you've got some good people involved in that and helping you to promote and develop that into what you want it to be. So yeah, some interesting matchups there. This is not a question I prepared you for, James, so I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but
That's okay.
I'm just wondering if you could sort of identify, some of the sort of players to watch out for in the playoffs as well. If people are going to get involved in watching these games on the live stream, who should they be watching out for? Is there anybody you can sort of point us in the direction of?
Yeah, I will. Just so I make sure that I'm just checking my my phone here to make sure that I get names correct. I don't want to say people's names wrong. I'm looking at, we've got Thompson for the Warriors. He's on a 35.7 points average per game at the minute. We've got one of the Williams brothers, and it's L. I can't think of his first name. Is it? It's
That
not
would be Lloyd.
Lloyd. It's Lloyd. Yeah, Lloyd Williams. He's on a 34-point average, and I watched one of his game. I watched the Gladiators v Raptors game live because it was in the north, and the shooting from the Gladiators was outstanding. Yeah, and obviously Lloyd being one of them. We've got A. Arthur from the Archers, who's on a 26.3-point average at the minute. And again, some of his, we played against them, and he was MVP for. We selected him as MVP. He was a force to be reckoned with when we played. He caused us a lot of problems as a team.
Okay.
Reese Williams from the Gladiators again, shooting outstanding. He's 25-point average at the minute. Dan Evans from the Magic, he's a 22.7-point average. So he's one to watch out for Mold. And then we've got Niall Williams from the Celts, a 21.6-point average at the minute. And if we got here, Palianos, it's Andreas, it is, for the Raptors, 20.5-point average. So there's a few, just a few players there from each team to sort of look out for on the live streams.
That's really interesting, James. Some of those guys are are posting some big numbers there, aren't they? So
Yeah, yeah,
certainly players to look out for. Brilliant.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, that's really great. I mean, that's real. I mean, what you're talking about here is really positive. And just thinking about sort of moving on from the playoffs, and we'll watch with interest to see how that happens and in the finals, etc. But what are your aspirations for the future of the basketball Wales National League, and how can what can we do to help you, and what are your aspirations?
Okay, so I mean, we want to connect into what I said before because those stats that I've got there are straight off our Facebook page for BWNL. So thinking about what you last said there about how can the community help the league is is to make sure that if you're a basketball fan in Wales, in wherever across the world, if you're a basketball fan, then get on our socials and follow our socials and engage. The more we engage with our socials, the more sort of Kate can go commercial sponsorship. And that's what Kate's really driving for, is that for next season is to get a commercial sponsor that is going to support the league, and help us grow the league as quick as we can. But obviously,
Yeah.
we don't want to get too big too quick, so nice and steady. Aspirations um, for moving forward, we've already been talking about a women's league for the BWNL.
Okay.
Um, not not quite as easy for us to tackle with the amount of women's basketball that's being played across Wales. But we feel that connecting with the universities and maybe just across the water, that we can pull something together to get a women's league running across Wales, and perhaps connecting with the universities might just sort of then develop into a bit of club development in whatever area that university is. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Um, and then we've really got aspirations to move into junior basketball. So let's have a junior national league in Wales. And that, going back to the initial question of the idea of where it stemmed from, that sort of had a big influence for me as well. That the young players in South Wales are getting a lot more exposure to high level basketball than the young players in North Wales, and I think that definitely has a telltale sign when it comes to national team trials and selection for Wales. Um, that there's just more exposure for them. So a national league for the juniors to play in is just going to raise the profile of players across the country.
Yes. Yeah, some really interesting points there, James, about sort of the development of the women's game. I mean, some great ideas there about linking with the universities, and there's a lot of sort of work and development that needs to be done on that front. And also, another question for you in terms of where we are with the teams at the moment, and relationship with the young. I've seen a lot of young players with the teams involved, and I would imagine it's a great opportunity for young up and coming players to sort of match themselves up against sort of older, more experienced players, and massively beneficial for them, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It broke up a little bit there, John. Were you just asking about younger players stepping up and playing with the senior players at the minute?
That's right. Yeah, I'm just wondering what kind of level of younger players you're getting in the league at the moment, and what kind of impact is that having on them?
Yeah, well, I know that Honest Mon Celts have played a few of their under 16 players in the BWN in a couple of games. Um,
Okay.
so at 15, 16, getting exposure to playing against um, if the likes of um, the likes of the Williams brothers that are heavily capped for Wales, that have played Division Three. Have they played Division Two EB? Perhaps for a 15-year-old to go and play against that
Yeah.
level, is you don't get that's great experience, isn't it? We at Mould, we've got a few under 18s that are training with the team. I know Cougars have got younger players looking at their videos and pictures. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely caught within my club. It's definitely caught the interest of the younger players. There's somewhere
yeah,
higher to play. Um,
brilliant. And yeah, that's great. And for me, that's a sort of massive sort of development tool, isn't it, for basketball in Wales, for the general development and an opportunity for young people to play at a better, higher level and match up against some good experienced players. Brilliant. James, just wanted to sort of round off with an opportunity for you to sort of promote where we are with, once we get through the playoffs, where the finals will be, where they'll be played. And again, I'm assuming they'll be live streamed and people will be able to watch.
yeah.
So just round us off with the finals and a little bit more information about that.
Okay. Well, it's really interesting because the finals for the BWL have obviously been discussed with the committee, but we've not released anything for the finals yet. So this is new news coming out on your podcast here, John. Um, it was discussed with the BWL committee and the Basketball Wales committee about events around Wales and what key events that happen every year around Wales, and Aberystwyth, as well as obviously hosting the Junior NBA this year, tends to host the Welsh finals for North Wales and South Wales leagues every year, which is a
Yeah.
great weekend down in Aberystwyth. Um, we tend to get a lot of the USA Select games down in South Wales every year. So we looked geographically and thought there's no major Welsh events going on in the north at the minute. So it's been taken the decision that the BWL final will be held in the north each year.
Okay.
Um, and we have selected Glyndŵr University as the host facility. I don't know if you've been to the university. It's got quite a nice
No.
modern court. Um,
Okay.
so the finals are going to be at Glyndŵr University on the 2nd of April, where we'll see the top two teams battle it out for the first ever BWL Cup and the BWL Plate. It will be live streamed. We're hoping, if our um, government allow, that we can have spectators by then. I think looking at some of the things that have been said the last couple of days, it looks like things are going to reduce with restrictions by the end of January, February. So by then we should be able to have spectators. I know that Kate and Jamie are working on some special guests at the event, and Kate's Kate's got it on it. It's gonna be a big event, I think. So yeah, which is
Yeah,
great.
brilliant. No, great. I think just an opportunity to shout out Kate Gordos. I think she doesn't sort of get the credit she deserves sometimes, and she does a fabulous job with all sorts of things. And
Yeah, she's great.
you've mentioned it a few times there. So she does an awful lot of good work, and yeah, she's got some great ideas, and that's definitely so. Thank you, Kate, if you're listening. I'm sure she will be. James, I was just going to sort of round off and put you on the spot a little bit in terms of predictions for finals, but I'm not going to do that because I know that you're involved in your own team. So I'm
Yeah,
going to steer clear of that one, but maybe I'll pick that up with you separately. But no, listen, thanks for all your hard work on the National League.
yeah.
It's
Just on
proven to
that
be a
note, John,
good.
when you talk about predictions, I'm not going to make any predictions, but thinking about the run up to the semi-finals, the run up to the finals, Jamie Thomas will have polls and stuff running on what the basketball community, how they feel it's going to go, and if you engage with that on socials, we can get some good predictions on there from our local community.
No, that's brilliant, and that's a great way of going back to my question about how the Basketball Wales community can help. So that's a massive way of getting involved, and yeah, brilliant. Well, James, thanks very much. We wish you all the best for the rest of the season with the National League. You've done a great job, you and everybody else involved. We hope that this will sort of develop in many different ways, and we watch with interest. So thank you
Yeah,
for joining us,
thank
and
you for having me back
good
on.
luck for the rest of it.